Today we're going to be turning all of these beautiful ingredients into a not quite so Italian bolognese sauce. Today we are doing a not so Italian bolognese. So for all the Italians out there, please do not get at me for this. First thing we are going to be doing is putting our burners on to a heat. And we want them onto a low heat. So I've got the first one going and the second one. And I'm just going to cut open the packet of meat here. I've got 430 grams of beef mince. This is butcher quality beef mince, but if you can't afford that, buy the best quality beef mince that you are able. And we vac packed this so that we were able to flatten it and keep it in the freezer much easier. First thing I'm going to be doing is also adding in our onions to this pan. I'm going to dry fry the onions because I want to get off some of the moisture and I want to induce a little bit of charring. But by the time that's cooked, the mince will be done and we should be golden in that grand scheme. So first up, mince is in, onions in. Let's get a handle on these pans. I've had a couple of people asking me where did I buy these pans. They were functionally a wedding present. My one recommendation, probably best not to buy them. Because the pans are okay, the handles not so much, but that is life and we just get on with it. So I'm going to just break up the mince just a little bit, and you're going to ask me about seasoning it. I have got my seasoning mix here, but I'm not going to do that until it's a little bit later on. Let's get that plate out of the way. Add a small mix up. If I need to add any fat to the onions because it's scorching or whatever, I shall, but at the moment there is no need. This mince is a 90-10 mix, 90 meat, 10 fat. You can go leaner if you wish, you can go fattier if you wish, it's entirely down to you. You don't have to use beef, you could use lamb, you could use pork. Do not recommend chicken or turkey mince because it just won't have the same sort of flavour profile that we are going for. Let's just break this mince down. Another small stir to the onion. Not that the onion's doing too terribly much. Let's turn that heat up actually. Do you know what? We're going to move that onto this burner at the back. That's a higher burner, so it should do a bit more. And we want browning on this meat more than anything else. And if you hear the meat is bubbling rather than sizzling, lesson has been learned this time. So you'll hear that noise. It's bubbling rather than sizzling. We want to get it to a sizzle. We want the moisture from the beef mince to cook out. And try not to overcrowd your pan if you can help it. Right, the onions are starting to release a bit of moisture. Now I'm not going to add a crazy amount of salt or pepper to it because I've got 2 stock cubes as well as some salt and pepper in my mixed herb and spices seasoning. And shortly, this is not going to caramelize, I should say, not like you know, if I had a bit of fat in there and rendered it all down. I could pour off some of the beef fat into there, which in fact probably not a bad idea. Just get some of that going in. There we are. That does two things. One, it gives the onions something to brown off with as well. And two, it drains it out of the beef mince. But we've still got that liquidy noise with the beef mince, which we don't really want. It's still very much bubbling if you have a listen. Not what we want. We do want to just keep breaking the mince down and making it into small pieces. Now, this recipe has been tried and tested at my house. The other half likes it, and a fussy child likes it, so it can't be too bad. And you can always blend up the vegetables to hide the vegetables within the mix. I just don't bother with that because there's no need. Just got to make sure everything is appropriately cooked. Now, I'm going to swap the pans over because that can brown on the heat back here. Let's have that going a little bit more. We can crank up the heat for these onions. We can also start thinking about getting our mixed vegetables in. Not just yet, but soon enough. Garlic is going to be the last thing that actually goes into this mix, because garlic is very easy to burn, and that's not something we want. Burnt garlic is bitter, it's acrid, it's not nice. So the onions are starting to go a bit translucent now, and it sounds more like they are frying rather than boiling. So I'm going to add in what I classify as the wet vegetables. This is just one whole pepper, one whole courgette, and they are going to add a bit of moisture to the mix, and they will cook down with the onions. So I'm going to let those cook down, and I'll be back when it's time for the seasonings. So in order to prevent everything from scorching, I'm just adding quite literally a splash of water just to help it prevent scorching down. But whilst that's done, I'm going to add in my spice mix, which is mixed herbs, smoked paprika, I believe there's cayenne pepper in here, just a little bit, salt, pepper, I can't remember what else I put in there actually. I think I put onion powder as well as garlic salt as well. But that's just going to cook off, as well as 2 stock cubes, vegetable stock cubes I should add. That's going to cook off on the veg, and it's going to adhere to the veg as well. And we want it on the veg because that's where all that lovely flavour is going to come from. And the Maillard reaction that's happening on the meat will add to the wonderful flavour as well. Soon enough I'll be adding in the tomato puree and then a bit more water to help cook it all down and deglaze. You could add a white wine or a red wine if you so wish. The choice is yours. Just make sure you cook it off or reduce it substantially, because you don't want it overpowering the flavour. And if you had to do one of the other, I would suggest in this instance doing a red wine. Now I'm going to add in the tomato puree. There's about 20 grams in here, loosened with a little bit of water. And you may be wondering, why am I adding it all to the vegetables and not to the meat? Well, as I just explained, I would rather it goes onto the vegetables to adhere to the veg. Surprisingly, it actually adds a more in-depth flavour. Everybody says season the meat rather than season the vegetables. If you season vegetables, I can guarantee you, you will like them more. You don't need too much salt with this either. The stock cubes have got plenty. And just keep stirring and stirring and stirring. And you'll see the vegetables have changed colour. You know, everything's getting deep golden red. And you can add a bit more water to loosen it at this stage if you wish. But I'm at this stage going to add in 3 cloves of garlic. That can go in now. That won't burn as much as it would have earlier on in the process, because it's got vegetables and other seasonings to adhere to as well. So I'll be back in a little bit and we'll get the mince mixed into the meat, to the vegetables, and we'll go from there. So I've just added another cup of water, or half a cup of water, to the vegetable mix, but the beef mince is now frying and sizzling. So I'm just going to give that a stir up. That to me tells me all the fat has been cooked off. So I can now add it to our mixture. Now this is a very veg heavy dish, but think of all the vitamins, minerals, and you know, all the additional fibre and everything else that you're getting in your dinner with this. You can obviously double the mince if you so wish, but not really found the need to, and this is plenty enough for 4 portions. If you're adding it to a bolognese, or if you're making it into a bolognese by adding some tinned tomatoes rather, or if you're using it as part of a lasagna mix, it's still just as great. But that's now mixed in. Let's just make sure all the veggies and meat is mixed in. And the last part of this is a jar of tomato and mascarpone stir-in sauce. Now, it's a bit of a cheat, I admit. However, it's an acceptable cheat. 99% of the time I would cook everything from scratch, but there are days, much like today, where I've been up since stupid o'clock and I don't fancy making everything from scratch. I'm just going to sit that there for a moment. Add in some water into the jar. Don't need to fill up the water too terribly much. Give it a shake. And get the spoon stirred off and add it in. Now, what this does is it thickens and enriches the, or thickens and enriches, I should say, the end product. You know, I think the Americans might call this sloppy joes or something to that effect, but there's obviously a lot more vegetables than the sloppy joes in here. But yeah, it's still a fantastic dish to have. Now we're going to crank the heat up, cook off a little bit of the moisture and make sure everything's well incorporated, and then we are done. It can be portioned up, frozen. What the plan is here, we're going to portion a couple up and put them in the freezer and have the rest at another later on. So I was about to say at another point, but that's no good because we're cooking it today. Let that build up to a bubble. Sit that in there. You'll be able to hear it, it's bubbling away. You just want to bubble away some of it, not all of it. But just enough. also actually at this point taste for seasonings, so fresh spoon rather than the one I have been using. Take a bit of onion, a bit of pepper, a bit of the mince. There's one thing slightly missing that I don't have to hand. That is Worcestershire sauce. It's not to say I don't have it, but it's just not to hand. So I'll turn the heat down, pause the camera. Got the W sauce. Only needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 glugs like that. And that is plenty for this dish. What that does is it brings a touch of acidity, the sourness as well, to the dish. If you had anchovies, I would 100% say add them to the dish, because they bring that extra bit of depth of flavour as well that a lot of people seem to miss from their cooking. Let's try that again with the W sauce. That is spot on. I am happy to call that there. I will portion this up and that'll be enough from me. I will see you guys on the next video. Couple of afterthoughts with this dinner. If you are making it and you want to do more, the more you buy, the better it's going to be for you. So you can really batch make this dinner and do yourself a good 20 portions, and it'll actually probably end up being cheaper just due to the scale of economy. If you look at the receipt, you know, you can buy bigger packs of mince or you can buy multiple packs of courgettes, etc. And the scale of economy just makes it work that much better. If you are scaling up, just make sure you scale up the recipe macros accordingly and the dish macros accordingly. But I base this off of 1/4 of everything is 1 portion. That's all for me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you around for the next video.